Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Two Wise Girls podcast. A reminder to like, subscribe, do all the things. We talk about Percy Jackson, we talk about other works of fiction, trauma-related stuff, and today...
But the thing I wanted to talk about was there's this article in CNN that came out where they described it like exposing a global rape academy is the thing on it, like the headline on it. And it's been all over the place. When I saw it, I tried to read it and got like 3 sentences in and like literally started panicking that I just like had to stop. I was like, I can't do this. Like I tried so hard to be able to sleep. This is going to like mess up my ability to sleep. And so I was like, I don't know what's in this article. I can't read it. I hope it's not that bad. Whatever it is, I'll just have to depend on other people to tell me what's going on in this article. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what was in it until somebody that I like on TikTok started talking about it and how people are getting the wrong idea about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And this is reminding me of things that happened in 2020. And so I just wanted to at least we can say that, like, figure this out, that this article isn't what it seems to be. And it's one of those things that the headline is definitely so emotionally reactive to try to stop people from actually reading it, because if they read it, it wouldn't have exploded into this way. Because essentially this article tries to say that there is the headline of it, in the thing that people keep repeating, is that there was a website or a Telegram group or a website that men were going to, where they would like talk about like tips or whatever to give your wife something to make, or girlfriend, woman, to have them like pass out basically. Mm-hmm. And like do whatever with them. And that was the big thing that everyone was freaking out about, that like 62 million people or hits or whatever were going to this website to do this specific purpose. Yeah. But when you actually read the article, what it actually says is that there is a website called motherless.com. And one of the things they have for like kink things is liking when somebody looks like they're passed out. Like people can do that where they're not actually, passed out or anything like that. Yeah. But that is one section of this big website. And so the website itself gets that many hits a month, but that's just like it's like Pornhub. It's just another website like Pornhub where anyone can go on there and look at whatever you're looking for when it comes to that kind of stuff. And that is not the only reason why anybody goes on it. And then they also talked about how there is this Telegram group with like 1,200 men, I believe, in it, where they're like talking, like posting pictures that are supposed to be that, but the pictures are like, it's social media. Like it's not clear at all that they're actually doing this to people, or that the people in the pictures are even actually like asleep or not awake or anything like that. Yeah. But it's a group where like about 1,000 men that are doing that sort of thing in this group, but nothing is like super clear. And so when I heard that and saw that it's not at all what people thought it was, that it's very misleading when it comes to the article, I was like, this is reminding me of what happened in 2020 with Pornhub, and why Pornhub isn't something that like sex workers can really use. And so the whole I like looked up people's names and everything to remember as much as I could about this. But in 2020, there's this evil person named Layla Micklethwait, and she started this campaign called Trafficking Hub, which was her trying to get Pornhub shut down. And the reason that she said it needed to get shut down was because there were videos from victims of trafficking or just people who had been sexually abused, and their crime basically ending up on that website, which would inherently be trafficking them. And there were a couple people on Twitter at the time that were talking about this. I don't want to bring up their names, so I didn't even try to find their names again because they've been through enough of this situation, honestly. But I was on Twitter back then and saw those people. And so they were trying to get Pornhub to change their kind of like rules to have like a way for them to like check a video before somebody uploads it, because theirs were on Pornhub for a while before they were able to get it taken off the website, basically. And so this Layla person uses those people's actual stories and says that the reason why she's wanting to do this is because these victims, look at these victims over here. Remember these people right here? Like, look at all these bad things that have happened to them. That's why I'm doing this. But in actuality, that had nothing to do with it. She was very much like the Underground Railroad thing that Tim Ballard was doing in 2020 also at the time. I don't know what happened, like where people became uniquely stupid about sex trafficking in 2020, but that was definitely a whole thing. But Layla worked at a nonprofit. I'm trying to find where I have the name of it. It's called Exodus Cry, and it's a anti-LGBTQIA, anti-abortion rights, anti-sex workers overall, like any sort of sex work, anti-everything sort of nonprofit. And so she convinced these rape victims that she was like helping them and that they were doing something good by like fixing Pornhub, when in actuality she was just using their stories to try to get the entire website taken down, because she was a right-wing, like alt-right person who thinks that all kinds of sex work needs to not exist on the internet and just wanted to like censor the internet. And it worked. Like at the end of 2020 was when Pornhub took away like you couldn't use, like all the major credit card companies wouldn't let Pornhub use them anymore, which then made every sex worker that primarily used that website to do their job, they couldn't do it on there anymore. And that's why so many people ended up joining OnlyFans, because it was the only other website like that at the time, and it was a much newer thing at the time. But that's why so many people joined that website then, because it was the only one anymore, and they had no other option but to use that one instead. But like the victims who were used by Layla didn't realize that how she was actually exploiting them and lying to them until it was too late, and they couldn't stop what had already happened. And that's why I don't want to say their names. They all felt like so bad, realizing, because they didn't want to do that to sex workers. A lot of times actually abuse victims tend to actually really like sex workers and get along with them, because we have similar like frustrations, I guess. And we can usually see through things like this. But yeah, Layla ended up writing a fucking New York Times best-selling novel about all of this stuff, and went on like every major podcast you can imagine, and what like on this whole like cool press tour in 2024, and just got away with it all. She doesn't really mention the victims anymore because people will show up and tell her to stop. She still does every once in a while, but that's what this is reminding me of, because of how the main thing that made me really be sure about it is that this sounds very much like the story that happened in France with Giselle. I don't know how to say her last name, so I'm not going to. But the woman that realized a couple years ago that her husband had been doing that to her for like 50 years. And it sounds so similar to that I was like, I feel like that's what they made like this article sound like. Like it made it sound like this was another group of men doing things like that, when it wasn't actually that. And it was a lot less people than what they made it sound like. But they like framed it in that way so that people would accept it and believe it, instead of questioning a story like that and actually reading the article and finding out that it's not actually like that. And when I looked at the two main writers of the article, they both are covering French like subjects, and they have other stories on CNN where they're talking about the Giselle case. And I just noticed when I was looking at stuff that this article says, like the big article that they first put out, it says something on it that says that it was published on like March 26th. I don't know why it says that, because it wasn't. Like the article exploded on social media on April 15th. And so they put out this other article on April 9th that was actually, like, that article is actually describing what happened. And they talk about in it how the two main writers that I mentioned, they went undercover on this Telegram website where they made like fake profiles and to try to like get into like this group of men, I guess, to try to catch them doing something. And there is one guy that they think that they caught actually doing something, or like sent them a picture or something that could be something, basically. And they like flew to Poland, where he's from, to like see if he was a real person. They said that they realized that he was a real person, but they never actually even like really talked to him or anything like that. And they just kind of called the police there to do that. But other than that, there, like, the guy was like charged with things, but it wasn't really clear. That was basically it. Was just like they infiltrated this group to try to catch somebody doing things like that. There was one guy that they think that they caught doing things like that. They were sure that he was a person, like an actual person, and then like turn him over to the police, and that was it. And so it was just this one guy. But when that article came out on April 9th, nobody cared. And so I was like, okay, this is obviously what happened. That article came out. It wasn't as interesting to people that one guy got caught. And one of the things too with this that people don't like to acknowledge is that going undercover, are you like making them commit a crime? Because a lot of times when people go undercover like that, they'll like push people to like send them what they want. And it's one of those things of like, would that person have ever done that? If you weren't there, like pushing them to do it because you're trying to get like that for your article, basically, for like this investigation you're trying to do.
Approach.
Like that kind of thing has happened with other even like police investigations before, where like the police will go undercover to like catch somebody doing something. And then later on, when the person finds out that it was the cops, they said that like they wouldn't have done it, but like they felt like pressured to make this person happy, so they would go away and leave them alone, that they just did it. And so there is that part of it, but it's also a thing that this like investigation that they were doing, they put out the article, nobody cared about it. And so then they redid the article and put out this is a rape academy article. And a couple of days later, when suddenly it was all over the internet. And the thing that's frustrating about it is it's exactly like what happened in 2020 with those two sex trafficking groups. There are still people who think that those people did something good. Like Layla Bitchface has gone all over the internet. Like, she literally, if you look up her name, it just has a list of every huge, gigantic, major podcast you've ever heard of in your life that she went on in 2024 when she put out a book that she wrote about whatever she did. She had to lie in it, because it's not like she would actually tell the truth about how she lied to child sex abuse victims to try to act like she cared, and then screwed them over as soon as she got attention, then named herself the hero and is now getting all this money and attention and awards, when those victims are left with nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
All they wanted was to change the rules on websites like that so that rapes couldn't get, like CSAM couldn't get put on. But she is from that group of people that considers anything CSAM. Like, Project 2025 says that if a librarian gives a kid a book with a gay character in it, that is them committing child pornography. Like, that literally is what it said. I read it before Trump was elected. That's what it says. And so I can't ignore the fact that this article came out, because it feels very much like they're trying to emotionally position people so that if they try to take down websites, people will just go with it. Because there's the Comstock Act is this act that says it's against child pornography, but it's essentially an act that people try to push, at least recently, especially, and it's essentially just trying to take away any place that sex workers can actually do their job. And they already have a really hard time doing that anywhere. Like, they would try to pass that act to get rid of OnlyFans, which is like one of the only places they really have left where they can legally do it. And like the obvious purpose of that, for people like me to be upset by that, is that if sex workers don't have a safe place to go, then people are going to commit more crimes on them. Like, the people that are involved with them are going to do worse things to them and get away with it because they know that they can't go to the police about it. They already can't because it's already illegal, but they especially wouldn't be able to. They would have nowhere to go, and it would just become a much worse thing. And sex workers are allowed to do what they want to do. They're not doing anything bad. They're just existing in the world. They're just doing a job. But like, people like that Layla person and the people who wrote this article, they're like trying to find a story that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And also sounds bad enough, because they just think that any sex work is bad. Like, the idea that like sex workers can do that because they've just decided to, that they're not all victims, that they decided to do this, that there are people that get trafficked into it, but there's a lot of people that don't. And they're just doing it because it's a job. Like, and it makes me feel crazy whenever I talk about this with people, because they're like, oh, well, your job put their bodies in danger. And I'm like, so does a lot of other jobs. The article is everywhere, and it feels like one of those things that is never going to be corrected. People are so like emotionally triggered, I guess is the right word for it.
Yeah, in a weird way.
They're attacking people who just bring up the fact and just ask you, like, did you read the article though? Because that's not what the article is, not saying what it's saying. There isn't a website with 62 million men or 62 million hits of men looking at this. It's not even clear that any of the men in this Telegram group are actually doing it, because it's not clear what the pictures are. There's like somebody in there trying to get people to like buy this one kind of like supplement or whatever that's supposed to do that to people. And so it's not clear at all like that there's actually anything going on. It's just the same thing again, that it's like a kink related thing that people are pointing out and trying to make it sound really scary and dangerous so that people are okay with whatever they do after this. Because like, nobody described Pornhub like that. When Pornhub was around, nobody was like 70 million people a day look at videos of children being raped, because they weren't doing that. There was a lot of things on that website. Most of the people on there were not doing things like that. And so, but it's like none of those things happened for people because they were so like emotionally, I don't know, triggered or something by how they set up the article. Like, that's why I stopped reading, because I started panicking, because they made it seem like if you kept reading the article, you're going to read all these messages of men talking about doing that kind of stuff when women are asleep. And I was like, I want to be able to continue sleeping. I didn't for so long. I don't want to mess that up again. That I just stopped reading it, only to find out that they don't say anything like that in the actual article, and they don't care. Like, this is like my whole thing, is that they don't care about how that affects actual people. The people who read that article didn't give a fuck about people like me who have problems with that are triggered by that, and would be like sent on like a spiral by that. They don't care. They just want more people to read their article. They don't care if they have to lie. But they definitely were lying. Like, that's not at all the thing that they were trying to find. Another group like the husband of Giselle was a part of. Those don't happen that often.
No.
They don't. I know people really like the idea to think that every single man out there is like a beast, especially, but people don't go that far. Most people don't go that far. They also like don't talk about it like around other people, even if they are doing it a lot of the time. Like there's a whole thing to wonder about why they want to do that, or like how they end up in groups like that, but that's not what people are talking about.
No.
And I feel like for the rest of time now, whenever I try to tell people that that 62 million thing is not true, that there aren't 62 million men trying to like drug their wives when they're asleep so that they can do whatever they want to them when they don't realize that there aren't that many men actually doing that, that no one's going to believe us.
Yeah,
God.
it's super unfortunate. And yeah, as you said, we've seen this play out a few times in our lifetime of, a group finds a way to do a new porn is bad campaign and like to package it in a way to get people riled up like this.